Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism is the sponsor of our episode today. Warm temps and fresh seafood make the Alabama Gulf Coast the perfect beach destination for your family vacation, couples getaway, outdoor adventure, meetings, conferences, and conventions. Eston Colvin is our guest on the Outdoor Adventure Series today. Easton is the Public Relations Coordinator for Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism. Easton's public relations experience ranges from agency to professional sports, tourism, and events. He has worked with an NCAA Division I athletic department and one of Las Vegas's top public relations firms. And we are excited to have him on the show today because as the public relations coordinator, he's going to share some of the highlights of what it's going to be like for you, your family, or your business to come down to Gulf Shores and enjoy this location, being on this beautiful area of the U.S. So Easton, again, it's a pleasure have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. And we do appreciate Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism and their sponsorship. But now we're going to hear, let's put the rubber to the road. So welcome again.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, Howard.
Fantastic. Now I've got to ask, how long have you been the public relations coordinator?
So I'm pushing 2 years here at Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, but a cool thing about our destination is that so many people that live here, work here, and play here have been doing it for a long time. I started coming down here when I was in middle school. And so coming from up in Arkansas, it's not that bad of a drive. Took us 10 or 11 hours to get down. And we'd come down every couple summers and just hang out for a week or two and just have a great time. And now I get to pass that along to other families and other people to make the same memories that I did.
Fantastic. Now, as a youngster coming down, what was the family vacation like? What did you do while you were down here?
Yeah, I'm a huge beach guy. So we would come down, and this was actually the second beach I'd ever been to in my life. So we would come down, we'd get a condo down on the beach, and our condo, we always stayed in the same one. It was right over on Perdido Pass, which is over in Orange Beach. And we'd come down, we'd get some killer food because I've always been an eater. I don't look like it, but I can put some food away. And so
All right.
always been an eater, and we'd get some great food. And then we'd just spend some quality time as a family on the beach. I'd always be out there playing in the water or getting on a floaty and seeing how far I could go before the parents called me back in and just hanging out. I love being out there and just making connections with people, be out there playing volleyball. I was out playing volleyball last night. And so just join out with people and have a good time. And that's what our destination's all about. Being able to experience it firsthand as a kid growing up and now being able to give that to other people is just amazing.
Fantastic. I had shared with Chris Blankenship, the commissioner of the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, that I actually lived in Montgomery, Alabama for a year. And I would travel throughout the state, and everybody said, oh, you got to go down to the Gulf Coast, Gulf Shores, Destin, or Orange Beach. I never made it down. Okay. Shame on me, but I am like so excited to be coming down in September for the Outdoor Writers Association of America's annual conference. And by the way, I'm also working on my fasting, my 18-hour fast per day, so I can kind of lose some weight. So I want to enjoy some of that great food that's going to be down there. I wish I was as thin as you, but then again, you're playing beach volleyball, so that means a lot. So how did you end up down there? What was the opportunity? What was exciting about coming down to Gulf Shores and just saying, I'm going to make this my next destination in my career?
Yeah, the opportunity came because my great boss, Kay Mahan. We actually both went to Mississippi State University, so we got connected through our alumni network. And so that's how we knew of each other and had this opportunity. Funny thing is, I interviewed for this exact position time before, and things just didn't match up. We weren't on the same time frame and everything. And so ended up taking another job and then stayed connected with Kay for about 3 years. And then when it came my time to move, I mean, I've always wanted to live at the beach. I love the water. And so I grew up around water up in Arkansas. And so love the water and always wanted to live at the beach, and called Kay up one day. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "Well, nothing too much, just staying busy because we're always busy down here, but actually hiring for the position that you were interviewed for." And I was like, "Well, that just happens to be perfect because I'm looking to get into a new position myself." So it was just the planets align, and I like to call them a little God whisper, but it just all lined up perfectly to get me down here. And man, Howard, just to be frank, it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I love it. And opportunities like that, they come around, and sometimes you have to get that little whisper, as you called it, the God's whisper, and just to like, there's something here. My gut's saying I need to do this. And I love that. So the conference is going to be coming up in September, and there's going to be a lot to do. And I've learned from our guests so far, like Chris, that Alabama has the most navigable waterways of any state. And I'm curious, when, locals and visitors come to the Gulf Coast and their, let's say, desired experience is to put a line in the water, what can they expect when they come down here?
Yeah, they've got all kinds of opportunity down here. What's really cool about Gulf Shores is that we've got brackish water back in our bays. We've got access to deep water out in the Gulf of Mexico. And then we've even got fresh water here on the island. And when you look at it, one fun fact that I like to talk about is you can go from freshwater bass, crappie, catfishing to in the saltwater in the surf, where you can hook up to sharks, pompano, redfish, all of that stuff within 725 feet. So from the bank of Lake Shelby to the shore of the Gulf of Mexico is less than 1,000 yards. And it's really cool to be able to have that. So you can come down here, you can book a charter, you can do it on your own. That's one thing that I love about our destination is it's so accessible from a water standpoint. You can go rent your own boat, or you can just fish from the surf, or you can go to the Gulf State Park Fishing and Education Pier, fish right there. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, and you can go after the big daddy blue marlin out in some big blue water, or you can just throw a line out like you would at your local pond and go catch some bluegill and stuff in Lake Shelby.
Fantastic. Now, the folks that are coming down for the fishing, angling adventures is, what are like the age ranges? Are these like the mom and pops bringing their kids down for the first time? Where are their experiences, say, on the beach, at the pier? Are they going out into the waters of the Gulf Coast?
Yeah, the age range is really wide open. And one thing that's really cool is even from our charter standpoint, our age ranges are wide open. We've got a captain right now that's 18, just graduated high school, and she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do and was sitting there thinking, well, I want to be like my mom and dad. They own a marina, they own a charter fishing business. And so she just got her captain's license. And so at 18, she's out running charters. And one thing that she loves to do is take on families and inexperienced anglers and teach them not only the correct way to fish, but also about the conservation and about our biodiversity and about everything that we have to offer. And then you go on the pier. I mean, I am a part of our Share the Beach Turtle advocacy program. And so my section of beach that I walk in the mornings looking for sea turtle nests butts up to the pier. And it's just so cool that that's the end of our walk. And so we'll be going out to the truck to get up and go home at about 6:37 in the morning. And there are families going to the pier. There's the old guys that have lived here since there was nothing down here that are fishing at the pier, and everything in between. So it's really, I mean, there's opportunities for everybody. You can book a beach fishing charter of guys that'll come out and set up everything for you, and all you got to do is reel fish. Or you can go out and do it on your own, or jump on a head boat where you're with 40 or 50 other people and you just go hit some reefs and do some bottom dropping. Or you can book your own charter where it's just you and the captain, or you and a guest and the captain, and hit some of the back bays and stuff and get some killer redfish, some flounder, and catch up your own dinner. That's one thing that I love, is going from, it's farm to table is the buzzword, but I like to call it water to table, because there's so many places here that you can do what you call it catch and cook, or you can just do it at your own place. One thing that our destination offers is a lot of condos and house rentals. And so you can even catch your own food. And if you like to cook it a certain way, you can go to one of our grocery stores and get everything you need and just cook it right there at the house.
I love that. And so I'm curious, what's any given day, a week, what do you partake in if you're going to put a line in the water?
There's always a chance of catching a monster redfish down here.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we're known for. There's a place called the Dixie Bar that's about 10 miles out. That's one of the best red fisheries in the world. I mean, we can compete with, you think fishing world, and everybody who knows it will hear Venice, Louisiana and know what Venice is.
Mm.
We can compete with that with our fishery. You can go offshore. You can get on some tuna. The tuna are biting right now. Get on some yellowfin and some bluefin tuna. Of course, there's the marlin, there's the swordfish, there's the sailfish, all the big ones. But we've even got access to, when we've got grass pads floating around, we've got schools of mahi dolphin fish that are around. You can go trolling for bonita, the Spanish mackerel and king mackerel. We're just moving through the Jack Crevalle. One thing that's super fun and one thing that I enjoy doing is renting a kayak or getting on my kayak and going out in the surf and getting on a Jack Crevalle, because those are 30 to 50-pound fish and they are pure muscle. So you hook into one and he will pull you around the bay or wherever you're at for 15, 20 minutes. You can fight them and turn them into your old trolling motor there for a while and just get pulled around fighting a big fish. And it's just a great time. But the redfish are always here. Flounder back in our bays, and those are delicious. If you haven't had flounder, you need to get on some, because it
Stuffed
is
flounder is,
yes,
it was what I'm thinking about as you were
yeah.
sharing about all the fish, and it brings back a memory from the Florida Keys. But I'm thinking a nice stuffed flounder would go
Oh
very well.
man, so good. And well, I mean, we call them doormats because they'll get big out here, and so catch up a few of those, and those are delicious. You can always find those. I mean, really everything. Our trout fishing down here is really good. The state record trout has been caught down here, speckled trout, sea trout, all of it. We've got a little bit of everything. And then even for the little kiddos, I mean, you think about you're sitting at home catching bluegill and stuff like that, perch. We've got what is it's a pinfish. And I mean, they can get as big as your hand or bigger or as small as you want to try to catch them. But my first saltwater fishing experience was using a crappie setup and using a little crappie jig and catching pinfish off of a dock. And they're just a saltwater bluegill is what I like to call them, because they're pesky and they'll eat your bait if you're going after something else, but they're a great bait fish and they're fun for the kids to fight. I mean, you get on some light action rods out there and they'll give you a good little pull.
Very good. Now, I share often during the podcast, especially when I'm chatting with an experienced fisherman, angler, except for I think when I was very young, catching some bluegills off the pier at the family friend's house on the lake in Michigan. I've never been fishing ever. Okay. Except for that. So I'm going to come down in September for the conference. What would your suggestion for me be to just to experience what it's like to be down there catching something? And it could be catch and release. I don't know if I'll have the availability to catch and consume. That would be nice. However, what would your suggestion for someone like me be?
For a new angler, I would definitely try to jump on one of what we call a head boat or a party boat. What that is, it's going to be your lowest price point to get in. It's going to be a 2 to 4 hour trip. So you're not out there all day. And so you're not out there baking in the sun or if it's windy, whatever. And so you'll jump on one of those boats. You'll go anywhere from 3 to 10 miles out, get on top of a reef or a rock ball or something like that. And you'll just bottom drop. And so what you do there is, I mean, I hate the pun, but it's like shooting fish in a barrel. You'll just load up with cut bait and you just drop your line straight off the edge of the boat. It hits the bottom. I guarantee you're not waiting more than 60 seconds for something to eat it and you're coming back up. And all you got to do there is just drop and reel. And so super easy. The deckhands on those boats, they're super good with fish ID, with regulations on if you can keep or not. If you're just doing catch and release, they'll let you take some pictures with it, whatever you want to do, unhook it, drop it back down, good to go. And so you're not reeling in too much water either. You're usually about 70 to 100 feet. And the unique thing about those fish and a lot of saltwater fishing is we use what we call a circle hook. So you don't have to set the hook. You don't have to rip it out. You just reel. And so it sets itself. So super easy for people that aren't experienced anglers to get on. and just a fun trip. Because the one thing that I love about reef fishing is you never know what might be on the other end of that hook. Last time I was out reef fishing, we caught 13 species in one day.
Oh, wow.
And so you never know what it's going to be down there. And so it's always a good time. And I mean, you could hook into a state record or a world record if you're in the right place at the right time. And you never even thought of that. I mean, I've heard from our divers that go down on some of our reefs. We've got red snapper that are as big as tables that are hanging out down there. And we don't hook into them all the time. We get some big ones. We'll get some 20, 30 pound red snapper, but there are some down there that are just absolutely tanks. And you've got the same opportunity at that anybody else has. And so, that would be my recommendation. You can get on a head boat. I think the lowest one right now that I've seen runs out of Hudson Marina over in Orange Beach, and you can get on one for $69.
Oh, wow. Oh, I am definitely going to be checking that off my bucket list because it's hard, Easton. It's hard to have a podcast and talk with all of these adventure enthusiasts and experts in hunting, fishing, hiking. And the fishing part is like, here I'm having this conversation. I've never been fishing. So I want to be able to say, hey, I was just down in Gulf Shores. This is what I did.
Right, right. And it's a great time. And that's the one thing that I love is fishing is accessible for just about anybody. You can go, the hardest and go do your own thing and be out there for 18 hours or do an overnight trip. Or you can just jump on a boat like that, or you can go out on a pier and just like when you were a little kid, just do something like that. So there's all kinds of opportunities for it, and you can bite off as much as you want at any given point.
I love that. I am curious about the coastal bays and the estuaries, and I asked this for the reason I'm an avid photographer. I love taking the log lens out. I love birding. I'm not a birding expert like some of the members of Outdoor Writers Association of America, Ruth Hoyt or Bridget Butler. I mean, they are photographers, birders at the highest caliber.
Right.
But I want to go up into the bays and the estuaries. What are your suggestions there? Whether it's for the experience of doing the photography or even combining it with a little bit of fishing adventure?
Yeah, one thing about our bays and estuaries is that they're very accessible, and both of our cities have done a great job of adding access points. And so, one thing I would recommend for that is either rent your own kayak or go through one of our outfitters and do one of their guided tours. And so, you're able to get in on some really what we call skinny water, which is really shallow up in the marshes and stuff like that. And one of my favorite things to do while I'm fishing is just watch all the wildlife around me. Of course, you've got the dolphins and stuff like that, but the birds down here are amazing. We've got blue herons, we've got bald eagles, you've got ospreys. There's everything that you could want to look at. And so even while I'm out there casting a line, you don't get to watch your lure going through the water. So I'll be out there casting a line and just looking around and listening to everything. And so there's a place off of Fort Morgan Road that is one of our kayak launches that you're able to paddle out or pedal out, however your kayak's set up, or trolling motor if you're real fancy these days, and get out there. And I mean, it's a 10 or 15-minute paddle to where you're hitting what looks like a finger. If you look at it from a map, it looks like a hand. And every single one of these little cuts has water in it, and you're able to go as far back as you want. And that's a great fishing hole for redfish, flounder hang out back there. The trout will hang out in the deeper pools. But that's also with all the trees and everything, that's where the birds are hanging. And so you're able to get some long lens photography out there. And shooting from a kayak is something that you're not up in the bird space. So you're able to see how they operate. They nest out there, they do everything. And so, I mean, the one thing that's blown my mind is you look at a heron, which is a saltwater crane of sorts, and you're used to seeing them walking up and down the beach or walking on the seawall. But when one of those goes and hangs up in a tree, it's just, it blows your mind for a second because, they're 3, 4 foot tall and they're sitting 20 foot up in a tree, and then they're sitting on a limb and they're just standing there like you would see them in the water or on the beach. But when you see them up there at their vantage point, it's something that's really cool to take in.
That's fantastic. Well, I am definitely going to take advantage of that. I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to go out to the oyster farm. Anthony Richardone and his Admiral Shellfish Company. I love oysters. Gonna get on that. I've got Courtney Weatherby at the Coastal Outreach Manager for Alabama Audubon. I know there's an event scheduled to go out with them. Little bit of fishing. This is good. I'm thinking, and by the way, I'm not going out there just to work, but I've got a couple of days up front, a couple of days after
Yeah.
to relax. So that's exciting. For our listeners, if let's say all of a sudden they hopefully they've heard this episode, they want to get out there. How far in advance do you recommend they uh reserve, say they want to go on a charter or they want to rent a boat? Any guidance for them?
I would look probably about 6 to 8 weeks out. That's about our booking window right now. And a lot of people will come in and they'll see somebody else doing something and they want to do it, So we do have that late window as well. But if you know what you're wanting to do, I'd plan about 6 to 8 weeks out during our red snapper season, which is a chunk, most of June and a chunk of July. Your
Mhm.
fishing boats are going to fill up quick because we're a world-class red snapper fishery. I mean, I would honestly say we're top in the world for red snapper down here. And so those boats and those trips will book up quick. But outside of June and the first chunk of July, I mean, you could come down and see how you're feeling and get on a last minute boat. But if you know what you're going to do, I would research, find a captain that you want to work with. Cause that's another thing. You're going to be spending hours of a day with somebody. And one thing that these captains are really starting to do is get into social media and
Mhm.
start posting videos and photos. So find somebody that you want to hang out with because sometimes the fishing just ain't happening, but you're still having a good time with a new friend. And so find somebody that you mesh with, somebody that you think is going to be a good time, and go ahead and book that as soon as you're ready. That 6 to 8 week is a really good window, but there are guys that they'll book out for a trip next year. We've got people that come down year after year and they come down and they fish with the same captain because they're their friend now. And they do the same thing every year and they'll book out a year in advance. And so really whenever you want to, but that 6 to 8 week kind of seems to be that magic little window where you're not going to have to jog around different days and stuff like that.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm curious. Well, there's two more questions I've got. One is around the topic of conservation, and I realize a lot of this fishing is go out there, catch the redfish, for example. This, I'm assuming, this is not catch and release. This is catch and prep and ship home because we're going to have some redfish on the menu. Or is it go both? Or is there a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. We get the true sportsman that's out here and they may catch 10 in a day and they only want to keep two because that's all they're going to eat. And so it's a little bit of both. Alabama has done a great job with their regulation of limits and slots and stuff like that. Like our flounder started to see a decline in early 2010s and up to probably about 2015. They threw new regulations on them. And now here in 2023, we're seeing what researchers and what fishermen are saying is the best flounder season we've ever had. And so they do really good on our regulations, but there's a lot of guys that come out here and they'll fish and they just want to, the tug is the drug. They just want to feel it and they
I
just
love
want to
that. The
fight it
tug is
and
the
want to,
drug.
yeah. So they just want to fight it and they want to just take in the biodiversity and know that you've gone into another creature's habitat. And as a man or a woman, you've been able to best that creature at what they do and then let them off and swim another day. So there's a few organizations that are coming around, especially in the trout world. There's a new trend that's coming on called release over 20. So over 20 inches in that speckled trout or that sea trout region, they like to release over 20 inches because those are going to be your bigger breeding stock and those are going to be your better fish to reproduce. And so even in the captain and the guide world, they're even coming on to that release over 20. And I was actually on a trip last fall with one of our captains down here that does kayak fishing. And we hooked into a big old mama flounder, huge, would have been delicious to eat. And we're sitting there debating if we're going to take it home or not. And you could just see it in the captain's eye where he's like, wow, that's a really pretty fish that he has a lot of respect for. And we ended up releasing that one to go swim on and let somebody else catch it another day. And so where you come into kind of the true angler and the conservancy of the species and of the diversities, that there's a lot of catch and release that goes on down here.
Fantastic. I'm curious when folks are going to come on and they're going to find the website, how are they going to navigate to begin to discover what their options are, not only for where to stay, ideally like the condos on the beach, sunrise, sunset, but also
Right.
to get information about their options for fishing? How do you recommend folks navigate the site?
Yeah. So what I would do is go to our things to do tab right there at the top of the site. There's a where to stay and things to do and a few other things, but that things to do tab, you can click on that. We actually have a whole separate option just for fishing on things to do because it's so big to all of us down here. There we have all of our industry partners listed, and our industry partners, they don't have to pay any money. They're just people that touch the tourism business and hospitality business. So you're going to see a bunch of fishing charters there in the industry partners page, where you can find those on gulfshores.com or orangebeach.com, right there, easy to find. And then also, if you're trying to figure out if you're staying close to one marina, or I really want to go fish for this, a quick Google search is always helpful, because a lot of our fishing captains, they'll come in, they'll come out, or they're part of a broader group where they'll be up here for a few months and then head down to Florida for a few months and stuff like that. And so just a quick Google search of red fishing in Orange Beach, you'll get charters that'll pop up there and stuff like that. But our things to do tab on our website has just about anything you would want to track down, has phone numbers, links to their websites and stuff like that.
Okay. So I'm curious, if we're not fishing, I mean, obviously you've got the beach, the volleyball, the kayaking, the birding. What else can a visitors expect to do of interest while they're in the area?
Yeah, we're a huge golf destination here, Howard.
Yeah.
We've got tons of golf courses. We've got over 100 holes just in between Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, and access to a lot more with the Robert Trent Jones Trail here in Alabama. But our golf is renowned. We've got the only Arnold Palmer designed courses in the state of Alabama are down here at the coast. And so you've got access to those. Of course, everybody gets a little tired of being out on the beach, or you come out on the first day and you go a little too long, get a little sunburn. We have some indoor activities for the families. There's indoor putt down here. There's trampoline parks, a couple museums, all kinds of stuff that people can get into. And then one thing that I really love doing, if I'm not out on the water, I like to be close to the water. So a lot of our restaurants have water access. And so one thing that's fun to do is go eat at a restaurant that's close to the water, and you get to see all the boats going by. Somebody will troll by fishing, all kinds of stuff. And so even if you're not wanting to get out on the water yourself, you can still experience it through places like that.
Okay. Now I'm going to be spending, I'd say about 2 days before the conference, a day after. And you shared that you're quite the foodie. So am I. I'm going to be working on the weight loss to lead into the event.
Right.
But what's your go-to that you would recommend to me?
I would check out the Floribama Yacht Club for sure. You hear yacht club and you think, oh, I got to bring a nice shirt or maybe a tie or something. It is the complete opposite. It's just a kind of not even run down, but just a beach shack with some dining spaces. And they have got some of the best food down here on the island. A thing that I go to down there every time as an appetizer of the crab and Parmesan hash puppies.
Oh
And so
God.
what it is, it's a hash brown coated in a fish fry with crab meat, Parmesan cheese, all melted in there. And they fry it for a minute or two and come out, put it on a plate. Got a nice little edible flour, great presentation, but throw a little salt and pepper on those bad boys and they're undefeated for sure. And then the blackened Gulf triple tail. So what that's going to be, it's going to be a triple tail filet blackened over a bed of jambalaya rice and covered in their Orleans sauce. And they've always, I don't know how they do it, but they've always got the freshest green beans that they'll just throw on the grill for a minute, a little garlic and olive oil, throw them right there and all together. Oh man, it doesn't miss anytime.
All right. So I think I have at least one of my dinners all planned out. I appreciate that. As we kind of lead into the event, what other highlights will be some, if it's a secret, we keep it a secret. I don't want you to give anything away. But what else can our members, as we come down for the conference, what can they expect?
They can expect a great conference from the OWAA team. The content there and the learning abilities and network abilities are going to be off the charts. I mean, the connections that you're going to make and the ability to learn how to create your craft and hone it into a more presentable and honestly a more profitable craft are going to be just electric down there. But we're also going to do our best to incorporate our local culture. We're a small town down here. Between our two cities, we've got less than 25,000 residents. So we're a small town. We're still got that Southern hospitality. And so they can expect to just come down and be welcomed with open arms by everybody that they see. It's going to be a chance to really meet some cool local people. The thing that I love about this place is that the locals here have been here for such a long time. And so they know the history. They've watched everything grow. They've been through the ebbs and flows and through the ups and downs, through storms and stuff like that. And just the resiliency of our destination and our people is a marvel. And so they can expect to just be ingrained in that and welcomed. And it's a learning experience from how you eat your food to how you take your drinks and stuff like that. I mean, everything's a learning experience, and we're always open to talk and chat, learn from other people as well. That's one thing that I love about down here is that everybody wants to learn from everybody. A phrase that I've really hooked on to in the last few months is a rising tide lifts all boats.
I love.
And so you've got the opportunity to get better at what you do through the conference, but also just be a more rounded person by experiencing a culture that maybe you're not familiar with. The coastal culture is one thing. You think about the Florida Keys, you think about down in on the coastal cities all over the country, but we've still got that deep Southern culture of everybody's going to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. And it's just a beautiful thing to see when you get to see everybody out connecting. One thing that I love doing is just going out and grabbing a drink and just seeing who comes along. One joke that we like to make about the Floribama is that you belly up at the bar and order you a bushwhacker, and the guy next to you just pulled up a 80-foot sport fisher yacht that costs $40 million on one side. And the guy on the other side just got off of his shrimp boat that his family's been running for 100 years. And he may have taken a nap in the sand on the way over here. And so we've got a little bit of everything for everybody. And it's a little hideaway that everybody would love to learn about and love to be a part of.
I love that. I love that. As we head towards the end of the show today, Easton, and as you look back, you've had a pretty interesting career in PR. You've done some really cool things, but in this 2 years working with the Gulf Shores and Orange Beach tourism, what's been your aha moment?
My aha moment is kind of connected to my past a little bit. When I was 21, fresh out of college, living in Las Vegas, I was with my manager at the time doing a TV shoot for a morning news show, and I had a magician with me. And we're going through the morning news, and it's bad this, bad that. Somebody got pulled over, all of that stuff. And then they're like, but when we come back, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have a magician in here doing some tricks, talking about a show that you people can come join. And I just sat there and thought about the John Mayer song of when you own the information, you can bend it all you want, but I get to be a part of the good stuff. I get to be a part of the fun stuff. And coming down here, like I mentioned earlier, being able to share the memories I made down here, being able to be a part of families making memories, or group of guys or a group of gals coming down and making memories. That's my aha moment, is when I'm down here and get to see people just having the smile on their face and having a great time, and sitting there thinking that used to be me. And now I live here, but now I get to share all of this with everybody. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be a part of people's lives like that and just put something together that they're going to remember forever, and hopefully come back and do it again. It's something that there's never a bad time to be had down here, even on the rainy days. It's fun. And so never a bad time to be had. And aha moment is just seeing the looks on people's faces and just knowing that in their brain, they're just taking in that moment and ingraining that memory. And that's going to be with them forever.
Those memories are so invaluable, and we appreciate you gifting us with that aha moment. Any final insight that you would like to give to our listeners about again, what you just shared.
The gift that I could leave everybody with is just come down with an open mind. You never know what you're going to get into. I mean, you could end up having a great time just meeting your neighbors at a condo building, meeting the person that's staying in a hotel room next to you. That's one thing, is that when people come down here with an open mind, is that everybody will sit down and talk and everybody will have a good time. Every time I go to the beach, we end up talking to the group that's next to us or a couple groups down, and just figuring out where everybody's from and what they do and just learning from other people. There's so much that as a world that we can take from other people. Last night at the beach, a couple people from North Dakota were down here and ended up playing volleyball with us. And so we just got to talking about if this was their first trip down here, or what all the fun things that they've done and stuff like that. And so just come down with an open mind and don't be afraid to pull up and talk to somebody. You never know who you might be around. I mean, we're a hideaway for some superstars too. So you never know who you might see down here. Morgan Freeman has a house down here. Sylvester Stallone's brother and Sylvester will come down here. I mean, you never know what you might run across. Talking about Alabama football, I met AJ McCarron down here a few weeks ago. He's a legend down in the state of Alabama. And so just always keep your eyes out, and you never know what you might miss out on if you're tuned into your phone or if your mind's somewhere else. Like, hey, pack it up and leave it somewhere else, because it's a great place to be. And you can come to a lot of clarity sitting next to the water and watching a sunrise or a sunset, and just leave everything else behind. Come down here and just be you and be the best you that you can be.
You are speaking my language, and thank you so much for that insight to go. And that's the other thing, morning sunrises with a good cup of coffee and sunsets with a nice adult beverage. I'm all over that. So thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Yeah.
If our listeners would like to learn more about you and your work at Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism, where's the best places for them to go?
The best thing on Gulf Shores and Orange Beach is going to be gulfshores.com. We've got everything there. You can follow us on social media, visit AL Beaches. We're on all the platforms through that. And so those are the best ways to connect with our destination. One thing that we've done is we started kind of getting some really good content just about the destination and being out and about on social media. So if you're just scrolling through and you're like, well, I don't know what I want for dinner tonight, pull up the old Instagram and we've got videos of where all you can eat, stuff like that. So be sure to check those out for everything involving Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. And then you can connect with me. More than happy to answer any questions or help look at a trip or anything like that on LinkedIn or any of the other social media platforms. I'm on those too. So feel free to drop a line and we'll get something figured out. Come hang out. We'll grab an adult beverage and we'll chat it up.
Sounds like a plan. Well, I personally am going to take advantage of that because I think we're about, what is it, maybe 6, 7 weeks away, and it's coming up fast. But I am so very excited to cross paths with you again, break some bread, to have an adult beverage or two, and just to enjoy the best that Gulf Shores and Orange Beach has to offer. So
Looking
thank you for
forward to
joining
it.
us again on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Howard. Great to chat.
All right. So listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a quick close, and then you and I will then have a final chat. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, folks. So this episode was sponsored by Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism. They have been really doing a lot of the heavy lifting, helping the Outdoor Writers Association of America with the planning and execution of our upcoming annual conference in September. And so I'm very appreciative of Easton, his boss, Kay Mahan, just for their openness to wanting to help produce this series for the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast as we head into the event. And really, just some great guests that we've had. And now Easton talking about some very specific items about the fishing, angling opportunities, also the conservation aspect, the eating aspect, just the whether you're out on the Gulf, on the beach, or up in the inshore bays and the estuaries. There's so many opportunities to explore and take in nature, and especially if you want to put a line in the water, so many opportunities are available to you. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode with Easton. And you can find Easton and Kay and their work together at Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism at gulfshores.com. And they are also going to be on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube on their social sites, and we'll provide backlinks to those as well. And we'll provide backlinks to Easton on his social sites. I know he is on LinkedIn. He's got a Facebook page, and he's, like you said, he likes the water, and there's a lot of photos of him in the water. This is such a cool area, and I'm really excited to be out there in September, and look forward to hopefully sharing some more shows with you all with some of the other guests that will be on the Outdoor Adventure Series as well. Now, as for us, you'll be able to find this episode on the Outdoor Adventure Series webpage, outdooradventureseries.com, or also on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And the Outdoor Adventure Series page is there. And the podcast episode, a get to know you segment, will be on YouTube. And then the full audio episode will be available wherever you listen to your podcast. I do want to thank Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism for sponsoring this episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series. And to begin planning your beach vacation, getaway, or outing, visit Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism on their website. And we're going to provide the backlinks to gulfshores.com right there. Okay, folks, take care, and we'll see you in a future episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Take care now.